Hey, Glenn here. Are you overwhelmed by the digital marketing landscape, or maybe you're underwhelmed by your current digital marketing agency? Well, G-Commerce's well-thought-out marketing campaigns draw their strength from the synergy of multiple disciplines working in concert and guided by an overlying strategy to drive new customer acquisition at the absolute lowest cost. They pride themselves on seamless customer service that makes you feel like you're part of the team, facing challenges and celebrating successes together. Your business is unique and your marketing should be too. Contact them today for a free assessment of your digital marketing health and how they can help you improve. Visit gcommercesolutions.com to claim your assessment. But more importantly, guys, listen, this is Glenn speaking to you right from the heart. These guys helped create my NoVacancyNews.com website. It is amazing, it is awesome, and it helped transform my life. They helped kickstart my business, and they can help you too. So visit gcommercesolutions.com and claim that assessment. Hey, and tell them Glenn sent you.
Welcome to the Hotel Tech Podcast. This is the show where we tackle your most pressing issues to bring your business more wins. Keeping up with technology is challenging. Our experts are here to help you figure it all out. Here's your hosts, Glenn Hausman and Estella Hale.
Hey everybody, Glenn Hausman here, your co-host for the awesome Hotel Tech Podcast. Now, I don't say that because I'm awesome. I say that because my co-host here is Estella Hale, who's the Chief Product Evangelist with SHR. You know them, Scepter Hospitality Resources. She's one of the best people I know in the technology world and makes me look good every single time we get on this show. Hey, happy 2020, Estella. How are you?
Oh my goodness. This is the decade of which we made so many predictions, Glenn. We're going to have our audience hold us accountable and remind us of all of those different guests that we made predictions for, but we're not stopping yet.
No.
We're going full force in this new decade.
That's right, Estella. We are incorrigible, and we are going to make lots of predictions throughout this year. And I personally, you could call Estella out. Don't call me out. My, my ego can't handle it. I would rather dig my head in the sand and pretend that everything is absolutely wonderful and okay. Usually, it's a brand new season of the Hotel Tech Podcast as we start 2020, and we're excited to bring you lots of shows every single month, all focusing on empowering you in the world of hotel technology. Usually this is the part where we say it's new and improved, but I've always been insulted by products that promote themselves as new and improved, Estella, because you're just telling me I'm a sucker for having done that before. So we are the same as last year, but maybe just a little bit more concise. Who knows? I don't know. How do you see it, Estella?
I don't know. I think we just fail fast, learn, and, bring a better version.
Yes. All right. I like that. It's not new and improved, just better. And we're going to continue to bring you great, better shows as we go around. And let's start this one off with Mr. Dan Wacksman, who's recently launched a new company called SASSATO, and he's out there helping hotels and travel-related businesses improve their performance in marketing, distribution, technology, and implementations. And I'm thinking, Dan, this is going to be a great wake-up call for hoteliers there to kick their year off right. So welcome to the show, and how you doing today?
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for inviting me, Glenn and Estella. I'm very, very happy to join you guys. I'm a big fan of this podcast and the No Vacancy podcast, so I really appreciate the invite. And one of the things, Glenn, that you might be happy about is I may actually get some of your obscure 1970s references.
That's excellent. I made a New Year's resolution to try to make current references, but it's just not going to work. And I feel like I should be throwing in some sort of Dynamite Jimmy Walker reference right at this point, but I can't quite capture the joke around it. But, before Dan actually started SASSATO, he really cut his teeth in a lot of different places. Most recently as the SVP of Marketing and Distribution for Outrigger Hotels and Resorts, a company based out of Hawaii. And Dan, I got to tell you, it's great that you started your own business, but why on earth would you want to leave a company that's based out there in Hawaii? What a great place that must have been to work.
It absolutely is a fantastic place, and Outrigger is just a fantastic company. I just saw an opportunity in the marketplace, and after 20 years, well, actually not 20 years, more like 30 years of being an employee, I decided it's time to try to mix it up a little bit and give it a change. And I saw a space in the market where I thought hotels were struggling, and I could potentially come in and fill that space.
Excellent. I love that. So, Estella, it's a new year. I've got a new attitude. How about you kick off the first question for Dan over here, and we'll get this conversation rolling and make everyone out there more successful in 2020.
Sounds great. Sounds great. I'm actually very excited and was very much looking forward to recording this podcast where the theme is bridging the gap between digital marketing and revenue management. I think as we have seen both the role of digital marketing and the convergence of channels just happen throughout in the past decade, those roles that used to be siloed are now impacting each other quite a bit. So I think, Dan, that you were spot on in recognizing what you were able to do at Outrigger and taking what you learned from that amazing organization and just bringing it out to help the industry and help other chains and hoteliers implement such a things. So I guess as a first question, I will ask you, do you believe that if there's team alignment between marketing and distribution, the hotels can reconnect with their guests instead of just connecting to channels?
It's funny you say that, because I was just thinking about this as I was thinking about this call today. Is that we are the hospitality industry, right? And we should be focused on our guests, and I think our operational people are, and our operational people are fantastic. But step into any corporate office or digital marketing and revenue management functions, and you find out they're very, very internal focused. There's a lot of navel gazing going on, and I think that's one of the problems. Besides the fact that you have this siloed mentality. You have the silo mentality trying to solve problems for the hotel rather than trying to solve problems for the consumer or the potential guest. So to me, that's a big, big element of it, is that when we're making these decisions, whether it be in the marketing side or in the revenue management or the distribution side, we have to be thinking about the end issue or the end idea, which is that we need to get the guests, make the guests happy and get the guests into our hotels and get the guests into our beds. And I think we're missing that a lot of the time. And we'll do things to solve problems for the hotel. Like, for example, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head where maybe the hotel needs to fill a particular restaurant. And you create a rate for that restaurant, a package for that restaurant. But it actually doesn't make sense to the consumer, but it may potentially help the hotel or the F&B outlet. But you really need to focus on what does the customer want before building this package, not what does the hotel necessarily want. Obviously, bridging those two together is the ideal, but you can't do just the hotel in absence of what the customer is looking for.
Wow. I got to tell you, Dan, I think that is a really good piece of advice. It's something I've been telling people on the road in all of 2019 is when you're thinking about strategies, why is there such a disconnect between how we present things and about how we act as consumers? Why do we always seem to forget that we're customers too? And that maybe a really great idea is to framework everything that you're doing from the eye of those customers. And I think, Dan, what you're talking about is really changing your entire perception of how you do business, because if you service your customers, in reality, you're servicing your hotel, but by focusing on your hotel, you're leaving out that valuable group and probably leaving tons of opportunity right there on the table.
Absolutely. And, there's a lot of things at play here, right? So I've been in the industry a long time, and there was a time where, pricing and offers and all those things were opaque, right? You didn't know what the person next to you or the person in a different country was getting. I mean, I remember a time when we used to offer, as an industry, different rates for different regions. So the Japanese would get one price, the Americans would get another price, and things like that, because nobody would ever find out, right? But now we live in a transparent world, so you can see everything. So what has this transparency led to? It's led to, what everybody knows is FOMO, right? FOMO, the fear of missing out, and what I'll call FOBO, right? The fear of better options or the fear of better offers. Right. And what this does is it creates an environment for the consumer where it's just really, really hard to be a consumer now. Because, I often use the example of me searching for a new cord for my iPhone, right? I literally spent an hour trying to find a new cord, right, on Amazon, because you have to have the best cord, right? And think how that's amplified, right? It's true, right? Think about any purchase you make. I'm trying to purchase a new backpack now, and I'm spending, more time than really you should even consider spending on that, because I think I got to get the best one, right? So when you have this amount of choice out there, it's just really, really hard being a customer. And as an industry, what we've done is we've made it harder for them by doing things like offering, a million different rates that take you, an hour to work through to figure out what's the difference between this breakfast rate and this breakfast rate. And you have to spend a ton of time on that. And then we have 500 different room types because the GM thinks the armoire in this room is nicer than that room. So we created a new room type for that. Or maybe you have a sliver view of the ocean, so we think we can get $2 more ADR on that. And in the process, you're confusing the hell out of the customer. And you look at the opposite side of that. Why are the OTAs so successful? The OTAs are so successful because they're really, really good at making the process simple and making it understandable. If you go look at their results pages or any of their pages, it's just so simple. You would have a design person look at it and say, this is the worst design in the world. But the reality of it is it's really simple for the customer and it gets conversion. So it's not about the design and all of that. It's about how easy is it for the potential guest to move through the process and make the booking.
That's right. And there's a book out there called The Paradox of Choice that we talk about from time to time on the No Vacancy show. And that's the whole idea that what you just said. If you give customers too many choices, they become paralyzed by it. So you think you're helping them out by giving them more options, but really what you're doing is you're preventing them from making a connection with your brand. And it's just much easier to click a button and go to another hotel that makes it a lot simpler for you. So again, think about being that consumer and how you want products being presented to you when you're making that buying decision. Great point, Dan.
So I completely agree. It is now to a point where many times we are putting the burden on the guest, even when we have campaigns for direct booking, and we want the guest to book directly, but somehow we have put the burden on the guest because we want to get the maximum amount of information at the time of booking, or we want to track, every step that they took to get there. And those are all good initiatives. So what I want to throw out there is how should hotels or team leads for both the revenue and the marketing side think about their metrics? So they show success by showing metrics on the adoption or the click-through or the open or the richness of a profile. So there's these disconnect metrics of success that maybe as much as we want to say we want to focus on the guest, those metrics are not allowing us to do that. So how Dan, could we maybe think of the hoteliers approaching of that guest first mentality and then rethinking a little bit and even selling it internally, how their metrics will look like when the goal is making the path simpler and reconnecting with that guest?
Yeah, that's a great question, and there's misalignment, as you said, on the goals. So you'll have the digital team going in one direction and the revenue team going in another direction, which at the end confuses the heck out of the customer. And so there's certainly a need for there to be alignment, and it may be something that you can do from a organizational perspective. So I've seen some organizations move more towards the sort of chief revenue officer, where the marketing and the revenue report into that. So that they can align the metrics and say, hey, we're all going, this is what we're shooting for. We're not trying to shoot each other in the foot. This is what we're going for. And let's align to that. And then let's look at the customer and see how we can push it out to them in a way that's understandable to them and that is actually something that they're going to be interested in and something that they're going to understand. So there's the organizational approach to it. And the other is just simply, being good partners and working together. And I think one of the things that I've seen in the industry is just a lack of knowledge of the other's discipline. I actually did a sort of, I'd say it's an unscientific survey. It wasn't a huge data set, but
Right.
I went out and I asked revenue managers and digital marketers to rate their counterpart on their knowledge of the other's discipline. And they both, on a scale of 1 to 10, they both rated the other as 5 or less, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was really interesting. But to me, the more interesting part of that study was that they rated themselves very low in the other's discipline. They didn't even think they were good at it. So they need to understand it. You can't have, in this day and age, you can't have a digital marketer who doesn't know what RevPAR is, who doesn't know what the on books are, who doesn't know these basic things. And you can't have a revenue management who doesn't understand what some of the advertising structures are, CPA versus CPC versus subscription model.
Mm-hmm.
They need to understand that as well. Also the capabilities. I've had revenue managers come to digital marketers and say, okay, this is the customer I want you to reach. I want you to reach a customer who's this, and this. It's so narrow that they think they have this concept that you could just hit this exact customer. When it's not quite that easy. So they need to understand the capabilities as well. So when they're creating this package that's good for 2 people, we may not be able to reach those 2 people. So there needs to be a better understanding of each other's discipline.
All right, so Dan, obviously, you're helping with consulting companies with a lot more than just that technology aspect of it. There's that co-working aspect of it as well. So how do you go about changing culture when you come into a company to break down those silos, get everybody on the same page, and make sure that they have a common education so that they could pull together to create something that's cohesive and catchy for the consumer?
Yeah, I mean, like anything, I think it has to start at the top of the organization. I mean, there needs to be the recognition from the leadership that this is important. And it depends on the organization and how the leadership sees things, but you'll often see revenue management in key conversations without digital marketing, maybe at that level, not necessarily understanding the convergence that's going on between those disciplines. So I think that's very important. And in terms of education, and this is totally a shameless plug here.
Go for it, man. Usually we save them for the end, but you've earned it in 12 minutes, in 16 minutes quicker than anybody else. Congratulations.
The HSMAI, the Hotel Sales and Marketing Association International, actually has 2 certification programs. They have the Certified Hospitality Digital Marketer and the Certified Revenue Management Executive. And I actually am part of I'm currently the chair of the marketing advisory board for them. And we have put together a digital marketing training. So for people who want to learn more about it, it's a great opportunity, and they can Google that and find the course. So we call it the Hotel Digital Marketing Essentials class, and we're kicking that off in February.
That's fantastic.
But whether it's my course or some digital online learning or something else, I mean, in both instances, they need to learn each other's discipline. The days of being able to say, that's the digital team, I don't get that. That's the revenue team, I don't get that. That's going to be a huge pain point for the company. And more importantly, at the end of the day, it's going to be a huge pain point for the customer.
And I would absolutely recommend for our listeners to check out this particular course. So again, it's the Hotel Digital Marketing Essential series. I looked through what is covered over I believe it's 6 weeks.
That's correct. 6 week course.
And it includes, it very much includes the alignment, or at least the knowledge of both disciplines. So whether it's this one, or if you're evaluating another one, I think one of the takeaways from this conversation, one of the takeaways from our listeners graciously listening to everything that we're saying here is that look at courses that will look into aligning both disciplines versus one that just goes deeper into a siloed view of a discipline. So I definitely recommend it.
And Dan, the HSMAI Marketing Conference, is that the one taking place in New York next week? I believe it is. I say next week because we're going to be releasing this, and we're going to be releasing this not as the day we record this. I think it's January 21 or 22. Is that correct?
That's correct. I should know it off the top of my head. It's whatever that Wednesday is.
I will tell you. I will be your Wednesday hero. It's the 22nd of January. Right. What I like about that is it's always done in coordination and conjunction with the Adrian Awards, which celebrates the best of public relations initiatives and stuff within the hospitality industry. So it's a great convergence of brain power that's going to be there. So go to this event, hear what Dan has to say, learn from your peers about all of these topics that we're talking about today, so that way you could get your tech really revved up for next year. So Dan, what else do we need to know that's essential with this? We understand now that we got to all be on the same page, and we all understand that we need to have a consumer focus rather than be too internally focused. But is there technology that we need to be considering that's going to simplify our lives, make sure that we as hoteliers can make more money coming this year?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much great technology out there. In fact, it's almost overwhelming talking about the difficulty in making choices now, which again is part of my value proposition. What I'm trying to do is help hotels make choices, but there's so many choices out there now that there's great technology, and not to belabor the point, but the first thing that the company needs to do is not look for a technology solution, but decide what their problem they're trying to solve is.
Great.
And then choose their technology based on that. I mean, one of the things that I see, actually, a lot of times I get called in, it's because implementations are all screwed up. And 9 times out of 10, the implementation is screwed up is not because of the vendor, but because the hotel or the hotel company doesn't know what they want. They need to configure the system. So how are you going to configure the system? Well, they haven't decided how they're going to do their rate structure. They haven't decided, what sort of analytics, KPIs they want. These are all things that you need to decide. Not all of them, but a great deal of them. You need to decide, certainly at a high level, what it is you want to accomplish with this technology. And then you go out and you search for the technology. If you do it the other way around, you either get the wrong technology, or you're going to get technology that doesn't work the way you want it to. Invariably, you'll blame the vendor, but a lot of times it's not necessarily the vendor's fault. So the key is getting aligned on what it is you need and what problem you're trying to solve, then go find the technology that exists out there today. I think, again, sort of prepping for this call, I sort of just jotted down, all the different technologies that are out there in the space that we're talking about today. Yep. And I'm going to throw a bunch of acronyms out there: PMS, CRS, RMS, CRM, BI, CMS, BE, ESP, DMP, rate parity tools, comp set tools, channel managers, and I can keep going on. Right? There are so many tools out there that you can use, but you need to figure out what your business goals are and which tools you need and when you need them. It could be overwhelming if you don't figure out what your goal is first.
So obviously, you're brought in because people don't necessarily understand this goal setting and how they should be framing it. But what are some initial steps people can take to really put things into focus for them so they can get a better understanding of how to better leverage the technologies that's available to them today?
Yeah, I think, again, they have to go back and figure out what problem they're trying to solve.
What I'm saying is, how do they even know sometimes? They may not even know what they don't know, so they may not even realize what the problem is. I know it sounds basic, super basic 101 for a guy like you, but I know there are a lot of hoteliers out there that just aren't sophisticated enough. And I guess that's why they bring in a guy like you to help guide them through that process. But what are some of those first steps? Like, if I don't know and I don't even realize what my goals are, and I think there are all these solutions out there to take me, is there an exercise that I could do at my hotel if I had one that would allow me to put some of this into a better sense of clarity so I could actually understand what I'm trying to accomplish, and then talk to somebody like you to help me find the tools that'll be able to solve those issues?
Yeah, I think you're talking about what they call the unconscious incompetent, right? You don't know what you don't know.
Right. That's my life.
So
mantra.
You want to move from unconscious incompetent to conscious incompetent, right? You know what you don't know, and hopefully eventually you get the conscious competent. But so I mean, it's hard, right? When you don't know what you don't know, it's a tough thing. I mean, the answer is to educate yourself. I mean, the Hotel Tech podcast is a good start. Organizations like HSMAI, HEDNA, and organizations like that, you can find people who are doing things similar to what you're doing, and talk to your colleagues in the industry and find out what they're doing and what the best practice is. Or you can call in somebody like me, and there's other people like me out there who can assess the situation and help you walk through it. It's interesting you say that. I recently had a client who called me in and said, "Hey, we don't like our booking engine. We want a new booking engine." And then when I went in, I realized it was much bigger than that. They had all these Band-Aids, holding a system together from 10 years ago that made the total system inefficient. And then beyond that, they needed to relook at what their actual business goal was and determine which booking engine they needed and type of booking engine. So it's absolutely right. And this is a very smart organization as well. But sometimes what happens, and again, this is the space that I see myself and my company filling, is companies are moving so fast, trying to implement what new technology they're trying to get, more importantly, they're trying to get business on the books and service their clients. That they don't have time to see the forest through the trees. And it's good to bring in an external set of eyes to help you understand that. And even if it's just to help you frame it and then you do it on your own. But it's definitely a valuable exercise to do something like that.
So I think we're learning today is don't have too much sass, get SASSATO, right?
There you go.
All right. Stella.
By the way, the name of my company, and I struggled with this one. I had so many cool names, but as you probably know, there's not a single URL available anymore.
Right.
So what I wanted to convey by my name is we get shit done.
Right.
And it's just because so many people don't, they have these things hanging out there. They know they need a new BE booking engine. They know they need a new CRM. They know they need to look at their marketing strategy, but they just don't have time to do it. Or they start it and they get halfway through and the guy who's on it is on a different project. So I want to come in and help them get the shit done. Right. So, I was thinking of things like running fast or running start or, all these things that convey speed. And there's nothing available out there from a domain perspective. So I chose a Japanese word. And the Japanese word actually, the English is SASSATO, but in Japanese you say SASSATO. And what that means essentially is get shit done. But but Japanese are way too polite to say that, so it's basically quickly.
Well, I'm going out for sushi with my kids on Friday night because they got some good grades, so I'm going to try that one out when we go over there.
There you go, perfect.
Fast sushi. No, I was going to say also within that mind frame, Dan, maybe what hotels can start with, and then again having that third party validated is to just go deeper into the questions of why things are not working versus immediately either blaming existing vendor or finding a new vendor, but going 3 to 5 reasons into why something is not working. So we're in the distribution side. We're recently also are into the revenue management and CRM side. And what we see is that sometimes hotel organizations have a mindset or a campaign or the strategy says that they're all about direct bookings. But then what we're seeing on the distribution side is that they're heavily relying on OTAs and counting on that for filling the rooms and part of the revenue management strategy. So I think starting with asking deeper whys to the answers of some of the tactical ways in which they're approaching their practices is a start. And then again, having that third party that comes in and questions them on those deeper whys and creating alignment.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of times when I talk to clients, I always reference Stephen Covey and his 4 quadrants. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but
you go through it because for our audience may not understand this.
So, and I'm sure I'm going to mess this up, but you have, and it's almost, you have
It's
to
all right.
visualize
We
it.
won't
But
tell,
he's
Dan. Don't
basically
worry.
said there's 4 quadrants of how you're going to work, and it's broken down into important and urgent.
Mm-hmm.
And there are things that are urgent and important, and there's things that are not urgent and important, and then there are things that are urgent and not important. And so hopefully you're getting the idea here. And what happens is people spend all their time on urgent things. And the one quadrant that often people miss, and it's urgent and important, and often urgent and unimportant that they spend their time on. And what happens is they miss out on not urgent but important. And that area is exactly what Estella was talking about. It's asking those hard questions, looking at your strategic plan and how you're going to move forward with things. And that's the hard stuff, and it's not urgent. It's not I have to walk guests today. It's not the system. The system is down today. It's not a group canceled today. It's okay. How do we see our relationships with the OTAs in the next 5 years or the next 2 years? 5 years is way too long. In the next 5 years, the next 12 months or 6 months. What systems do we need to put in place to be able to recognize guests at the front desk, but also be able to market to them? These much broader questions that you need to think about. And, you need to spend time in these quadrant 2 activities. Otherwise you're going to be, just running on these urgent matters and chasing your tail the entire time and not get out of that loop.
Right, Dan, it sounds like you're talking about trying to shift your perception from reactionary to being proactive with stuff as well, and just think ahead. And the more that you can think ahead and get ahead of these urgent but not important issues, I have a feeling the more there'll be less of a need to have to react to things in the moment. Of course, and that group cancels, blah, 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 walking people. But when it comes to your tech stack and stuff like that, if you can really take the time and put in the effort now, it is going to save you a lot of headaches and create more profitability at the same exact time. So I think that's a great thing. And for all you people out there that say you don't have enough time, stop making excuses because you're spending that time already. You're just spending it poorly. Right, Estella?
Correct. Just, remember that, as Glenn, you were saying in the beginning, aside from the metrics that we internally have, we also are users and we also are consumers. So just look beyond the metrics and see if you're putting too much burden on your guest so that they can find things quickly. They can book when your hotel is available, regardless if a particular promotion is not available. Are you taking on that burden and making it easier for them and for the success of your campaign, or are you putting that burden on your guest?
Excellent. I think that's absolutely right. All right. I feel like this conversation wants to come to a conclusion here, but Dan, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, is there something critical or important that we haven't talked about yet that you think the listeners must hear right now?
Sure. A couple of things. So one is, we talk about systems and choosing the right system is, there's no perfect system out there. You need to find the system that's right for you. And there's a lots of choice in the marketplace, which is both fortunate and unfortunate.
Right.
It's hard to make a decision sometimes. But what's right for one company, a city hotel is different from a resort, a casino is different from a city hotel. So, you make decisions based on your needs, and going back to the things we talked about earlier, you need to consider all of that. And the environment has changed before in terms of technology, where you went from having to use certain vendors and they didn't talk to each other, and things might be, this old style walled garden like Oracle. You couldn't talk, well, it was Micros back then, but you couldn't talk to anybody else. You can only use that system. Now, more and more, you've seen people open up to APIs so that if you need to choose, if you have one company that you want to use for your PMS, but somebody else you want to use for your RMS, somebody else you want to use for your booking engine, you could do that through APIs. Not always perfect, but there are ways to do it. So, you don't have to buy a full stack from one company, although some companies are trying to move towards that. So I think that's one important thing to consider. And one other thing I wanted to mention, Glenn, you mentioned The Paradox of Choice, which is a favorite book of mine, and I often reference it as well. So I created my own paradox as well. I call it the paradox of WTF. And what that means essentially is if, especially in the UX world, the usability world on the website, when you're looking at a website, whether it be a rate display or a homepage or whatever, and if you're a customer and you're saying what the WTF, then you probably need to reconsider what you're doing. So I think along with the paradox of choice, you need to consider the paradox of WTF.
I love that. So
love it.
All right. So it sounds like, guys, if you're out there, ladies and gentlemen, and you're listening to this and you're suffering from indecision, well, you got to contact a guy like Dan over at SASSATO, and you can find him, or I should say SASSATO, at SASSATO.com. That's SASSATO.com. Dan, I'm not sure I gave you a hard enough plug. Why don't you take it away before we wrap this up?
I think that's fantastic. I appreciate that. I don't like to do the hard sell, so I think that was perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. Estella, any final thoughts from you, my friend?
I guess just to sum it up, remind our audience that the role of digital marketing, the evolution of digital marketing as a practice, has brought it closer and closer to revenue management and to distribution. This closeness can either allow you to reach the goals of each group or create a bumper car effect where you are impacting each other. So just the importance of bridging that gap, the importance of team alignment, asking those questions, bringing a third party to help you ask those questions, it's a great way to start the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would add to that, everybody, that technology is moving fast. You know this. I don't have to tell you this. But what I do have to remind you of is that just because something worked last year or the year before doesn't mean it's going to continue to be as successful for you as other things in the future. So it is a new year. Maybe now's the time to take a few minutes, take a few hours, whatever it might be, and go through your tech stack and really start to think about whether or not the products that you have are as highly efficient and meet your goals. Remember, you've got this new mindset now. You're thinking like a consumer. You're not just thinking like a hotelier. So It's a great opportunity for you to take the time, make those changes, reach out to a guy like Dan, reach out to somebody like Estella who can help you as well. And I want to thank you guys all for listening today. And be sure to find this recording and all past shows on SHR's website. And you can find them, of course, at shr.global. And they're also housed on our No Vacancy Network at novacancynews.com. And if you want to subscribe to our newsletter, simply text the word hotel to 66866, and you get every episode of the Hotel Tech Podcast delivered to you every Sunday night. I want to thank you guys for listening today. I want to thank Dan for being here, and especially for my wonderful, incredible co-host Estella for being here. Thanks to you all, and we'll see you next time on another edition of the Hotel Tech Podcast. Thanks for listening.